Hello, welcome back to episode 26 of the Brad Davidson Show. Thank you for being here. I want to kind of continue on from the last episode that I did, and I want to just start by saying thank you to everyone that reached out to me, messaging me, text messaging me, calling me, emailing me, just talking about the episode, sharing ideas, wanting to meet up, making sure that I'm okay. And I really, really, truly appreciate all of that and the support, and I love you guys for that, so thank you. I also want to know I'm doing okay. I'm good. I think maybe it came across like I wasn't, just because I was in a place of overwhelm and struggle and things are kind of tough, and I just come out of a long phone conversation with a buddy of mine who was really struggling that I really care about. And at the time I really didn't have, much of an answer, but I could really feel that, and I wanted to just share that with people in case, like Ryan and I kind of feeling like we were isolated and everyone else has it all together, and we were really struggling and couldn't figure it out. And and actually got a lot of response of thanking us for sharing that, because a lot of people are struggling with that. So this week I want to kind of go over what happened since last week and some of the solutions I discovered that were shared with me that I remembered from my past. I took some time to really reflect as the messages were coming in. And I want to start with Phil. I have these three mentors of mine. I absolutely love these men. Phil, Glenn, and Keith. These men have been in my life for a long time. I've got to do some really, really cool things with them. And my podcast goes live Tuesday mornings, I think 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. At 8:51, I get a text message from Phil. Hey, I just listened to your podcast. We're getting coffee. And when Phil says we're getting coffee, we're getting coffee. And I was actually really excited to talk with him. He told me he had some ideas he wanted to share with me. He had been through a really tough time in life, kind of later in life like I'd been going through, and just wanted to, one, check on me, make sure I was okay, and two, just share with me some of the solutions he found when he was going through his stuff that really helped him. And these three men are phenomenal. Great husbands, incredible fathers, service-oriented men. And you can always tell when you're around a great man by how their children and grandchildren react to him when they see him. And with these three men, it's so beautiful to watch them around their families. They're so loved, they're so adored, and they're just such honorable, great men, and they do so much for people in their world. I've got to have great experiences with them with Special Olympics, Royal Family Kids Camp, like just some amazing experiences because of these men. And they've taught me a lot about leadership and life and being a father and all these things. And so when Phil reached out, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I cleared my schedule and I made sure to meet with him that day for coffee. And I don't know about you, but when I'm in that mode where I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed, I'm a little emotional. And I don't always like to hear advice. I kind of in a negative mindset, and I kind of come up with all the reasons why that's not going to work. But I really met with Phil and wanted to be open-minded and listened. And I'm glad that I did, because he shared one thing with me that I want to share with you. If you're in a state of overwhelm or under a lot of stress or things aren't going well, he said, Brad, you have to train yourself to be able to compartmentalize. I was like, what do you mean by that? He goes, it's really simple. When you're with your son, you don't want the weight of the world on your shoulders while you're trying to engage and play with him. He doesn't deserve that because he's not part of that. He said, so you got to be able to, when you're with your family, you're with your family. When you're with your clients, you're with your clients. He goes, you still got to deal with the stuff, but you got to have time set aside to focus and deal with that. And then you got to be able to take time with God or whatever it is that you do and have that time for yourself and your connection with your higher being. And that, so simple, but so true. I would catch myself being out shooting hoops with my son, but I got my phone in my pocket, checking text messages, responding to emails in between shooting hoops with him. And things like that. I just always kind of overwhelmed because I'm trying to take care of everything at all times versus being really focused in the moment. And for the rest of the week, it's really simple. I learned this from Eric Potterat, preparing yourself for performance. And I did this when I would speak, because I would have a pre-speaking ritual to get myself fully engaged for speaking. And so I just decided, okay, when I'm going to play sports with my kids, I'm just going to grab the ball, I'm just going to smack it once, and that's the signal to my brain that this is my kids' time. Nothing else matters. My phone's inside. It's put away. This is my kids' time. And I fully engaged. And man, I had a really great week with my son. And then when I was with my whole family, same thing. I'd have my trigger to keep me engaged with them. When I was with my clients, bang, I keep myself engaged with them. I caught myself like trying to interact and do business while my clients were resting between sets and things like that. Like I was just so spread so thin. And it's hard. I I did it probably 50% of the time well. But I'm working on it, getting myself to get more engaged with that. And what happened when I would compartmentalize and be focused on the things that I was doing in the moment and not worried about everything else, it was pretty crazy. I got a lot more done last week than I had the weeks prior to that. It was really nice. And then when I was with the people I wanted to be with, I was very present, very aware, and in the moment. And that alone brought my stress levels down because I didn't finish off, like, for example, time with my son, and I wasn't kicking myself in the rear thinking, God, what is wrong with you? Like, you were half engaged with that. You missed half the things he said. You know, your son knows you're distracted. So it was really fun being able to play one-on-one with him and shoot hoops with him and be fully engaged and hear his giggle and his laugh. And it was great. And then when I would sit down to focus on the stuff I'm behind on or trying to catch up on or trying to figure out on, I could get more done because I knew that I wasn't beating myself up because I wasn't present with my family or I wasn't present with my clients. So that was like a really, really big one for me. Super simple, but I'm so glad that was the message Phil wanted to share with me after his experience of going through tough times, because that was incredible for me. And that freed up a lot of area of focus for me and a lot of creativity. I came up with some great solutions. I'd be out not even focused on it, playing with my kid, and an idea would pop in my head. And then later I'd go, integrate it into work. It was phenomenal. So Phil, if you're listening to this, thank you so much for that. I love you and I appreciate you for taking the time to come see me, to check on me, and to just feed me with your wisdom and your mentoring. It's always meant the world to me. So thank you. Gosh, I've been getting all kinds of great tips on, self-care and things like that. Janine Weeks, I know you got some good ideas coming from me, so I'm holding you to that. You promised me an email with some tips. So if you listen to this, I look forward to hearing those. And I kind of started digging back into my stuff from the past and the stuff I do with my clients when I'm coaching them in these situations. It's funny how much you forget that you once knew when you haven't been paying attention to it or when it becomes personal. It's really easy to give advice to other people going through stuff. It's really hard to recognize it when you're in it. But when Phil caught me on to compartmentalizing, it allowed me to take time to, like, when I got in the position to focus on what was going on, to come up with better solutions. And, self-care is a big one. And I know for me, what happens is when I get busy, I stop working out as much. And then what happens is my fitness level starts to drop. So I think I mentioned it in the last podcast or two, but I like to use something called Morpheus. There's the Oura Ring, the Whoop Band. They track your heart rate variability, your resting heart rate, your recovery. They give you an idea of your fitness levels. I personally like one called Morpheus by a guy named Joel Jameson. His website is trainwithmorpheus.com. It's an app and a chest strap. And first thing in the morning, you put the chest strap on and you do a fitness test on yourself. And it gives you your heart rate variability, your sleep score, and then gives you an idea of how you should train each week, depending on what your goals are. So I put on there as my goals, I want to increase my fitness levels. I want to get those back up because I'm just noticing, like, running around on the field with my son's football team, I'm getting more gas than I normally do. And I don't like that feeling. I just don't have the same endurance that I used to have. So it kind of kicks out ideas on how to improve, like where to keep my heart rate in different types of ranges when I am doing cardiovascular work to get improvement. And shocker, but lo and behold, majority of my time needs to be spent in that zone 2, low level cardio, trying to get my base back. It literally told me I can handle 1 to 3 minutes a week of really high intensity, high heart rate stuff, like the stuff for these HIIT classes that I'm not a fan of, where they tell you need to spend the most time in. I can literally handle 1 to 3 minutes of that in a week, or it's non-beneficial to me. So just a little fact to point out there. High intensity, crushing yourself all the time isn't necessarily the right answer, like I keep telling you. For me, it's the wrong answer. So if I were to go do a crazy HIIT class, get my heart rate up super high a bunch throughout that class, I would damage myself more than I would help myself right now. So what I like about this app is it gives you some ideas on where to stay to safely and over time progressively improve your fitness. And I'm talking fitness like VO2 max, cardiovascular, aerobic based type of stuff. VO2 max and muscle mass are the 2 top predictors of longevity. So we always want to make sure those 2 things are dialed in. And I've been letting my cardiovascular system go. Not my high intensity cardiovascular system, but my aerobic capacity cardiovascular system. I have not been spending much time on that. So I put more emphasis on that this week. So I'm happy with myself with that. And what's funny is that by improving that or spending more time on that, my stress levels were coming down. And I actually slept better this week than I have the last few prior weeks, which also helps regenerate. And then I came across this story that I love to share with the football teams I work with. The first time I shared it was 2019. I was a coach on the Corona Del Mar High School's football team. They ended up winning the state championship in 2019. They went 16-0, and they were walking into a dogfight in the playoffs. And we get to the field, and the team we're about to play is big. They're fast. They're running their mouths. And it was intimidating. And our team wasn't the bigger team. I do believe, and we ended up winning the game, that we were the better team. But I shared this story with them. And I know it hit home because about 6 months ago, one of the players reached out to me and he's like, hey, one of the biggest impacts you had on me was that story you shared, I'm about to share with you, in that playoff game. Like, that just really stuck with me. And I just wanted to thank you for that because it's helped me get through some tough times when I was feeling challenged or overwhelmed. And so the story goes like this. I don't remember where I heard it, but basically there are two dogs. One's a little bulldog. His name is Maverick. And then there's a German Shepherd named Buddy. And they're neighbors, and they're fenced in. But somehow Maverick digs his way under the fence and basically gets into the yard with Buddy. And he hops over there. They duke it out. And Buddy whoops his butt, and freaking little Maverick comes whimpering back home. The next day, gets out again, rolls over to the house with Buddy in it. They fight again, and Buddy works him over. And you see little Maverick, tail tucked between his legs, whimpering, crying, walking his way back to his home. Third day comes, same exact thing. Maverick gets out, rolls over there, has it out with Buddy again. Same outcome. Buddy whoops him. And there goes Maverick, tail between his legs, rolling back to the house. This goes on for almost a whole week. Maverick just getting his fanny handed to him over and over and over. Buddy was bigger, stronger, more overwhelming, and just kept working him. But day 8 comes. Little Maverick gets out again, rolls over into Buddy's yard, and something different happened that day. Buddy saw him, whimpered, tucked his tail, and ran. Maverick comes walking back home, chest all high. Moral of the story is simply this. It's a matter of not giving up. If you keep showing up and you keep fighting and you keep bringing everything you have day in and day out, eventually what you're up against is going to give up. And I told those kids in that game, I said, it all comes down to who gives up first. If you just keep bringing it, every play, everything you got, yes, they're bigger, yes, they're faster, yes, they're stronger, but if you just keep being Maverick and keep bringing the heat every play, they will eventually break. And I told them, I said, I want you to tell me when that happens. They get into the game, they're duking it out. It was an all-out war. It was halfway through the third quarter. Offensive line came off the field. They coached, it's over. They just broke. And from that point on, we destroyed them. That team couldn't take it anymore, and they finally gave up. They started arguing with each other. They stopped bringing it as hard, and we worked them over. I shared this story last season with my son's little football team. They're an 8U team. I'll never forget the day we roll out to Vegas to play a team in Vegas. It is 114 degrees in Vegas on the field. We're playing at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in August in Vegas. We get to the field. We have 18 players. We look across the sideline. They have over 30 players, and they are big. And you can see it in our kids' eyes. They're nervous. They're scared. It's hot. It's uncomfortable. So I shared that story with them at the beginning of the game. And it's kind of funny, but our quarterback's name is Maverick. And so shared the whole story with them. And these little boys went out there, and they had to play both sides of the ball all game long in 114-degree heat, while that team had an offense and a defense. So they got to rest while the other team was on the field. Our boys had to play in 114-degree heat every play of that whole game. We get down to 4 seconds left in the game. We are down by 3 or 5 points. I can't remember what it was. But Maverick pulled a Maverick and threw a bomb into the end zone. One of our little receivers, Kobe, caught it in traffic to score the winning touchdown. And the only reason we were able to win that game is because those boys had all the elements against them. The heat, they're in a place they've never been. They're playing against a team that's bigger than them. There's more of them. They're more rested. And because they never gave up, because they never let the overwhelm get to them, they came out the winners. And I got to remind myself of that. Yeah, they're playing football. We're in the game of life. And sometimes the game of life can become very overwhelming. And it's beating us down. And it's really easy to want to give up. I know that, and I know we all know that feeling because at any point in life, we're all going to go through hard times and the overwhelm and the desire to give up. But one of the things I had to remind myself was be maverick. Like, keep showing up, keep the fight, keep pushing forward, keep taking action. And we all know this, that eventually it will subside. It's just being in the midst of it when you're overwhelmed, you're tired, you're irritable, you're emotional. It's really hard to remind yourself to stay in the fight. You hear it all the time, like, just one more day. Just stay in the fight one more day. I don't know, maybe you're like, like trying to stop something you're abusing or something you're addicted to. So often the saying is, I don't know how long I'm going to do this, but I know I'm going to do it for today. And you just focus on getting through that day. And as I reminded myself of the story and then replaying the times I used it with the Corona Demar kids and then my son's little team, I had to use it on myself. Like, get out there and be maverick. Just be a maverick and just keep pushing through, keep the fight going, realizing that eventually things are going to subside. Eventually you're going to prevail. Eventually things are going to get better. And my dad always taught me this, like, all bad things come to an end. And it's the truth. All painful, hard, suffering times eventually come to an end. And his thing to us was giving up is just never an option. And I have a sign from him as well, so I got to see that. And then the last thing I saw that crossed my path that I thought was really interesting after the conversation that I shared having with my buddy and then sharing it on the podcast. It's so funny how Instagram works. But this slide comes across, this guy was talking about how serious we take life and how funny it is that we take it so serious. And he was talking about, if you're going through hard times, that the reality with this life is that there is no escaping it. We're all going to die. And the reality is 3 decades from now, once we die, no one will even remember our names. So why are we putting so much emphasis and effort on the stresses of work and things like that? When in reality, 3 decades from when I die, no one's even gonna remember my name, let alone what I did for work. And I thought to myself, like, why am I killing myself over this? Like, why am I so stressed out and so worried about this stuff not working? And at that point, it allowed me just to turn it over a little bit more. Like, just whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And in all reality, 3 decades from now, none of it's going to matter anyways. And that took some of the edge off. So I hope that helps. And again, I thank you to everyone who reached out, who shared their ideas, who just checked on me. I love that. It's hard to see the bright side of humanity this day and age. There's so much selfishness, and to have it reflected on me and people just giving time and effort to me, I just really appreciate that. And it's really important. And what's funny is that just by me sharing it, people reached out. And the reality is, if you are struggling, if you are going through tough times, if you are overwhelmed, share it. Share it with people. People love you. They want to help you. I've had so many people offer help. Hey, what can we do to help you with this? That's been amazing. We'll give some of our time. Like, what can we do to help clear your plate, to help you find some of these solutions? People want to help, but if they don't know that things are rough, they're not going to know to help. They're not going to know to offer help. I know so often we play this game like we're tough and we can handle everything and we hide it from the world. And I'm glad I shared it. It was a little weird getting all the response. Like, are you okay? Like, I'm fine. Like, people not realizing how well I was fronting it, like everything was fine, even though I was in a struggle. So if you are struggling, share it with people. Talk about it. People are willing to help. They want to listen. People, strangers, it just doesn't matter. Like, people see the best in you, but if they don't know that things are going hard, they're not going to offer any help. They're not even going to know to offer help. So if you're there, don't be afraid to share it. So I hope that helps. Next, we're going to get back into fitness, nutrition, all that stuff, focusing more on that realm. Have some really exciting things to share with you about the weight room. We're changing up the programming and the whole system of that. And I want to share that with you. And hopefully my guest Raquel Perry will be here next week, because I'm dying to have a great conversation with her, because she has such amazing insights after being in the fitness arena for so long that I know she's dying to share them. So hopefully that happens next week. And That'll be a fun conversation. She's a ball of fire. I will forewarn you. She has more energy than anyone I've ever met. She's very passionate, and she has such great insight to this world of health and fitness and taking care of ourselves. So until next week, have a great week, and we'll talk again soon.